T-minus 1 minute. Liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen fill and drain valves being closed. Payload bay pressure vent doors being positioned at this time. Standing by for the handoff to Discovery. We've had the handoff, T-minus 30. Discovery's computers now controlling the countdown. Hydraulic power units activated. Sound suppression water system activated. Launch ignition system on. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Go for main engine start. Engines are up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff of the Space Shuttle Discovery, launching the next generation of communication satellite technology.
Houston now controlling.
Houston Discovery, roll program.
Roger, roll, Discovery.
Roll maneuver complete. Discovery's in a heads-down position on course for a 28.5 degree, 160 nautical mile orbit. Discovery's engines now throttling down as the orbiter passes through the area of maximum dynamic pressure on the vehicle in the lower atmosphere. The orbiter is 1 mile downrange from the launch site. Altitude 21,000 feet. Engines now beginning to throttle back up.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Go at throttle up.
Discovery's 3 main engines back at full throttle. The orbiter is 7 miles from the launch site. Altitude 66,000 feet, traveling 2,500 feet per second, or about 1,700 miles per hour. The time is 1 minute 35 seconds into the flight. The next event is burnout and separation of the twin solid rocket boosters. SRB separation, time 2 minutes 10 seconds. Discovery's downrange from the launch site, 30 nautical miles, altitude 165,000 feet, traveling 4,300 feet per second, or about 3,000 miles per hour.
Discovery, performance nominal.
Performance nominal.
Performance thus far in the mission has been as expected. Time 2 minutes 45 seconds. Discovery's altitude 221,000 feet, downrange from the launch site 51 nautical miles. Current velocity 4,800 feet per second, or about 3,400 miles per hour.
Discovery, 2-engine Ben Guerir.
2-engine Ben Guerir.
Discovery can reach Ben Guerir in the event of a single engine failure. All 3 engines, however, are still at full throttle. Discovery's distance from the launch site now 84 nautical miles, altitude 285,000 feet.
Discovery, negative return.
Negative return. And Houston, how do you like the FES?
Discovery, Houston, we'd like FES Pry A on.
That's complete.
Crew informed to switch to a secondary flash evaporator system. All other systems performing well. 3 good auxiliary power units providing hydraulic power to the vehicle. Fuel cells providing electrical power look good. The engine still at full throttle. Discovery is downrange from the launch site 168 nautical miles. Altitude 351,000 feet. Discovery is traveling 8,400 feet per second, or about 5,700 miles per hour.
Discovery, press.
This is Shuttle Launch Control at T-minus 23 minutes, 8 seconds and counting. With us here in the Fire Room 3 is Scott Higginbotham, the STS104 Payload Mission Manager. Scott, welcome. And it would appear that after quite a period of time in the Space Station Processing Facility that the joint airlock is ready to fly.
Good morning, George. You bet. It's exciting to be here today on the eve of what promises to be a very exciting mission. We've been looking forward to this for a long time, and the hardware is ready to go fly.
Well, we have a tape now of some of the processing, some of the milestones for the airlock, so if we can roll that tape now. Scott, if you'll tell us what we're seeing.
Okay. The airlock module arrived from the Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama on the 13th of September of last year. Once it was removed from the aircraft, we immediately took it to the operations and checkout building for a 2-week round of leak testing in our vacuum chamber. Once that test was complete, the airlock was removed from the chamber and placed into our transportation canister for the short trip across the street to the Space Station Processing Facility, where it underwent about 7 months of further testing and assembly. On the 30th of March, the STS-104 flight crew came into town to perform an extensive round of interface testing. They used this opportunity to practice the procedures that they'll use on orbit to assemble and check out the flight hardware. Here they are in the interior of the airlock module. And the EVA crew also used that opportunity to practice with some of the tools and procedures that they'll use during their 3 spacewalks. In parallel with the work in the SSPF over in the operations and checkout building, we prepared and filled the 4 high-pressure gas tanks with oxygen and nitrogen. And on the 7th and 8th of May of this year, we installed those 4 tanks atop the Space Lab Logistics double pallet. On the 17th of May, after assembly work was complete, we installed the airlock module into the transportation canister for the short trip across the street to the operations and checkout building, where we picked up the Space Lab Logistics double pallet and installed it into the canister. Once both elements were in the canister, we rotated the canister to vertical, and on the 22nd of May, we delivered the payload elements to the pad and hoisted the canister up into the rotating service structure. Once the canister doors were open, the payload ground handling mechanism, which is part of the payload changeout room in the pad rotating service structure, picked up the airlock and the pallet and moved them into the back of the room. When the orbiter finally arrived in June, the payload bay doors were opened, and on the 26th of June, the airlock and pallet were installed into the payload bay of Atlantis. We then mated up the appropriate electrical connections, tested them, and then performed our final closeouts. The payload bay doors were then closed for flight on the 29th of June.
Well, Scott, we've just entered the T-minus 20-minute built-in hold, so I guess this means we're on the home stretch. So best of luck, and we'll see the airlock on orbit.
Thank you, George.
Thank you.
JRPS OTC. JRPS OTC 212. JRPS 212. Yes, JRPS. Step 857. Copy, you confirm flight out complete. Copy that. You need to side tone this channel. And attention all systems, all orbiter systems, verify program software, report only if any discrepancies.
OTC, CGNC.
Go ahead.
Step 916, DEU2 ARSIS has been returned to C12.
916, copy that. QC 903 through 906 not performed.
Copy.
FCO, NTD on 212.
NTD, FCO, loud and clear, Emmy.
I have you loud and clear as well.
Roger.
CHGD, CGSS, and JBFX verify active on channel 212. CHGD. CC verified. CGSS. GSS verified. And JBFX. JBFX verified. Copy. And NTD TBC can give you 891. Copy 891. STM NTD. Got it, sir. Step 891 for you. Copy. CGSS OTC. CSS. Start your second HCU pump, 925. Copy, that's complete. And attention all personnel, this is the NTD conducting the T-minus 20-minute briefing. The launch window today opens at 09:03:59 GMT, and that is our preferred launch time, and that has been selected for today. The launch window closes at 09:11:56 GMT, and our LOX drain back hold time is 5 minutes and 0 seconds. And that is based on engine performance. The launch window and LOX drain back hold times will be updated and provided to the team during T-minus 9-minute hold. There is a launch window cutout within the launch window today, as we do have 2 launch window panes. Launch will not be attempted during the cutout period. There are no COLAs today. The NTD will manage the countdown timelines and will hold the countdown if there is a launch window or launch time constraint violation. PLT, at T-minus 5 minutes, perform APU start upon command of the OTC only.
I copy that.
CDR, the pad egress system is nominal, and our evac helipad today is number 8.
CDR copies.
Room launch team, disable your telephone ringers at this time. Control room access will be restricted after resuming the count at T-minus 20 minutes until after launch or flight crew egress. All personnel not active in terminal count will monitor OIS channel 217. After T-minus 20 minutes, all problems or trends requiring a countdown clock hold will be reported to the NTD on 212 together with a recommendation. For all manual holds after T-minus 5 minutes, the countdown clock will continue until T-minus 31 seconds unless the recommendation to hold as the next milestone is necessary. At T-minus 9 minutes, when a go is given, it indicates that the reporting element is free of problems which could prevent a successful launch. If a hold command is requested and issued between T-minus 9 minutes and T-minus 31 seconds, the countdown clock will be restarted upon successful resolution of the problem without the go survey being made of all elements. After T-minus 31 seconds, only cutoff is available and will result in a recycle to T-minus 20 minutes. For cutoff, the pro words CGLS give cutoff will be used. The GLS milestones are as indicated. And that concludes the T-minus 20 minute briefing at this time, and the countdown clock will resume in 3 minutes and 15 seconds.
That was NASA Test Director Jeff Spaulding briefing the launch team on the protocol inside the T-minus 20 minute mark.
NTD Houston Flight 212.
Good flight.
Best source selection is complete. Good checks.
Okay, copy that. OTC CGLS. Go ahead. Step 881 is not performed. Copy that. And attention console operators, discontinue all LDB commands and reads during our pass ops transition. Countdown clock will resume on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark. T-minus 20 minutes and counting.
And we're now pressing down to the hold at T-minus 9 minutes, which will be 45 minutes in duration. We should enter that hole at about 4:09 a.m. for that 45-minute duration. And the countdown continues to go smoothly. The built-in hold at T-minus 20 did not require any catch-up work. And we continue to press for a 5:04 a.m. liftoff.
OTC DPS. Go ahead. Pass ops transition is complete. DPS is ready for BFS transition to Ops 101. Copy that. CDR OTC. CDR, go ahead. Yes, sir. Clear pass fault sum and take the BFS to Ops 1. Copy and work.
That's putting the primary flight computer online on board Atlantis with the Prime software.
Entity safety on 212.
Go ahead.
You get a completion on 967?
Not yet. We'll double check.
Copy.
Safety console, PAC console, 967, close out crew at AB11.
Safety copies. Pack copies. Entity safety.
Go ahead.
Okay, sir, I can give you 968. All non-essential personnel have cleared launch danger area except for those personnel located by Pacific List at forward observer site.
Copy. FTC CDR pass is fault sum is cleared and BFS is moted to Ops 1. Okay, I copy that, and if you would configure your contingency abort yaw steer. And PLT OTC. Copy and work. And PLT OTC. Go ahead. Configure path and BFS. Go ahead, normal situation displays. Okay, that's in work. NTD CBFS. Go ahead. Yeah, ready for BFS. BFS uplink, step 946. Copy. Houston Flight NTD, step 947.
NTD Houston Flight will put it in work.
TWS OTC. Double S, go ahead. Configure owns RCS crossfeed for flight. STM entity, steps 969 and 970.
Copy.
SRO entity, the KSC area is clear for launch. SRO copies. OTC CDR config, contingency abort yaw steer is complete. OTC copies. OTC PLT horse off. Copies, and PLT perform MPS helium reconfiguration.
NTD Flight 212.
Go flight.
Step 948, we're complete with our uplink loading.
I copy. CVFS, you copy? CVFS copies. And the countdown clock will hold at T-minus 9 minutes in 1 minute 50 seconds. NTD S2. UV 986. Copy.
This is Shuttle Launch Control at T-minus 11 minutes and counting. 2 minutes before we go into the planned built-in hold at T-minus 9 minutes, a 45-minute hold. The solid rocket booster retrieval ships, Liberty and Freedom, 160 miles downrange off the coast of Jacksonville. Report seas are 2 to 4 feet, west-southwesterly winds 12 to 15 knots, and the air temperature is 79 degrees with an ocean water temperature of 83 degrees. The booster ships will be back with the solid rocket boosters in tow at about 3:30 on Friday afternoon. And we're about 1 minute now, 1 minute 15 seconds from going into the hold.
Attention all systems, discontinue all non-mandatory LDB traffic for the remainder of the count.
Standing by to go into the hold in 3, 2, 1, T-minus 9 minutes and holding.
9 minutes and holding. Duration of hold will be 45 minutes, 59 seconds.
We'll go now to the Johnson Space Center in Houston to Mission Control, to flight commentator Rob Navius for an update on the preparations there for the flight into orbit of Atlantis and their readiness to support.
NTD Launch Director, 312. Go ahead, Launch Director.
Thank you, George. Good morning, everybody. This is Mission Control Houston at T-minus 9 minutes and holding. Flight controllers belonging to the Ascent team have been on station since about 10 o'clock last night, monitoring Atlantis' systems in preparation for the 4th shuttle launch of the year. The Ascent team is led by Flight Director Wayne Hale with the assistance of astronaut Gus Lauria, who is the spacecraft communicator, or Capcom. Lauria will be talking directly to the crew during Atlantis' 8.5-minute ride to orbit. He is joined on console this morning by veteran shuttle pilot Mark Polanski, who is monitoring weather conditions at the Kennedy Space Center. Polanski is in direct contact with veteran astronaut Brent Jett, who is flying the shuttle training aircraft around the vicinity of the shuttle landing strip at the Cape. Down the hall from the shuttle flight control room, a separate team of flight controllers is standing by in the International Space Station flight control room, led at this hour by ISS Flight Director Annette Hasbrook. Those controllers are monitoring all of the systems of the station as it continues to orbit the Earth in excellent shape. Hasbrook and her team are working in concert with Russian flight controllers at the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov outside Moscow. Joining Hasbrook in the ISS flight control room this morning is lead ISS flight director Mark Kirasich. Aboard the station, the Expedition 2 crew of Commander Yuri Usachov and flight engineers Jim Voss and Susan Helms are now in their 126th day in space. Usachov, Voss, and Helms are in the home stretch of their workday, having shifted their sleep schedule far from its normal time frame to match the sleep shift of Atlantis' crew. Flight controllers may have a chance to uplink video of the launch to the crew during Atlantis' climb to orbit once Ku-band communications capability is established with the station. The Expedition 2 crew is scheduled to begin its sleep period at 5:30 Central Time this morning, about an hour and a half after launch. Ironically, Atlantis is poised for launch today on the first anniversary of the launch of the Zvezda service module from the Baikonur Cosmodrome. Zvezda is the main living quarters for the station. At the time of Atlantis' launch, the ISS will be orbiting at an altitude of about 230 statute miles over the heart of the Indian Ocean, west-southwest of Jakarta, Indonesia, and west-northwest of Perth, Australia. The Spaceflight Meteorology Group here at the Johnson Space Center has been keeping tabs on conditions at the launch site at the Kennedy Space Center and conditions at contingency landing sites in Spain, which would be used if an emergency landing is required shortly after liftoff. Zaragoza, Spain is the preferred site this morning in the event of a transoceanic abort. Atlantis will be sent aloft on the collective power of its 3 liquid-fueled main engines and its twin solid rocket boosters, combining for a total of 7 million pounds of thrust. This morning's launch is timed so that the Earth's rotation brings Launch Pad 39B at the Kennedy Space Center into the exact plane and trajectory of the station at the moment of liftoff. As a result, the duration of this hold is about 46 minutes in length. If all goes as planned, the countdown will resume at 4:55 a.m. Eastern Time for a launch at 5:04 a.m. Eastern Time. We have a 4-minute, 19-second window available for liftoff this morning. The launch begins a 42-hour pursuit of the International Space Station by Atlantis, with docking planned just before 10 p.m. Central Time Friday night. A little less than 6 minutes into the flight, Atlantis' onboard computers will command the shuttle's main engines to swivel, allowing Atlantis to roll to a heads-up position above its external fuel tank during ascent. That will enable Atlantis to gain more favorable communications with the tracking and data relay satellite system as it heads uphill. About 8.5 minutes after launch, Atlantis will settle into an elliptical orbit of about 119 by 31 nautical miles, which will be refined to 124 by 105 nautical mile orbit above the Earth about 43 minutes into the flight through a firing of the shuttle's orbital maneuvering system engines. The 5 crew members will go to work shortly after Atlantis' payload bay doors are open, activating systems, unstowing gear, and preparing for an early end to their day, beginning an 8-hour sleep period at about 9 a.m. Central Time this morning. Again, the Ascent team and Flight Director Wayne Hale are set to take over control of the 24th flight of Atlantis at solid rocket booster ignition at the start of the 105th mission in shuttle program history. At T-minus 9 minutes in holding, this is Mission Control Houston.
CDR. Go ahead, CDR. Yeah, we'd like to take one last opportunity here to press up our suits. Would that be all right? That's affirmative. Copy. Well, that's going to work. I'll let you know when it's complete.
This is Shuttle Launch Control at T-minus 9 minutes in holding with 36 minutes 48 seconds remaining in this planned built-in hold. Astronaut Brent Jett, flying weather reconnaissance in the shuttle training aircraft, reports that the bands of cloudiness that he has observed previously, which were of some concern, are now thinning and are transparent to the extent that they can be seen through without any real concern as far as visibility, and generally reports that the bands of clouds are dissipating. So the trend continues to be favorable as far as meeting our launch objective at 5:04. But we'll continue to watch the low cloud situation since we still have more than 45 minutes before we launch today. But at the moment, the weather appears to be cooperating.
OTC CDR seat represses are complete. OTC copies. Houston flight, NTD.
NTD Houston flight.
Flight, just want to re-verify that no changes at this point to our lock stream back hold time or any of our launch window times.
No, we have no changes and expect none, NTD.
Okay, I copy that. And attention all personnel, we have selected the preferred launch time for launch today. And I will reiterate the launch window opening and close. The launch window opens at 09:03:59 GMT and does close at 09:11:56. It is composed of 2 panes. There is a 10-second cutout in between those 2 panes, and our lock stream back hold time today is 5 minutes and 0 seconds. ECL, EPD, and C-Power, NTD. EPD. And C-Power, you with us?
C-Power.
Okay, the fire exit pumps will be started momentarily. Step 1012. ECL,
This is Shuttle Launch Control at T-minus 9 minutes and holding with 30 minutes remaining in this planned built-in hold.
I'll give you a go on step 1013.
Astronaut Brent Jett is returning to the shuttle landing facility now, reporting that all of the weather conditions around the SLF are go. He is looking over one area about 9 or 10 miles to the northeast to evaluate the cloud conditions there, and we'll make that report back for Shuttle Weather Officer Ed Purcellek, who requested that bit of information before he lands. We'll look now at a tape of the launch processing for Space Shuttle Atlantis to prepare it for the STS104 flight today.
Okay, copy that. Launch director NTD.
Atlantis
Okay, we have cleared our
landed on February 20th of 2000 and was ferried back to the Kennedy Space Center on the 747 shuttle carrier aircraft. It arrived at KSC on the 747 on March the 5th at 10:45 a.m. and the following day was demated and towed to the orbiter processing facility to Bay 3 to begin turnaround for the next flight. Inside the OPF, work was begun to process it for STS104. This is the area of the quick disconnect for the liquid oxygen side of the vehicle. The inspections were being performed, and here as well some of the tile repair efforts have begun. Here the tiles were being evaluated for the moisture content. There was a considerable amount of rain out in California while Atlantis was out there, so an effort was made to dry out all of these tiles so that they could then be ready for the next flight. And these heat lamps were focused on the area that there was moisture so that the tiles would dry out. Main engine installation began on April the 25th. All 3 engines were installed over the course of the next 3 days. These are some of our STS-104 astronauts performing the crew equipment interface test and being transported down into the payload bay area to do some inspections of the payload bay and some of the associated flight hardware. And then the rollover from the OPF to the vehicle assembly building occurred on May 30th. Atlantis was rotated to vertical, and hoisted for mating to the external tank and solid rocket booster stack. After the mechanical and electrical connections were made, then the shuttle interface test was performed to verify those connections. Atlantis was rolled out to Launch Pad 39B on June 21st, making approximately a 3.8 mile trip from the VAB out to Pad 39B. And after it arrived at the pad, the space station airlock could then be installed. It was already in the payload changeout room at the pad awaiting Atlantis' arrival. 25 minutes, 25 seconds remaining in this built-in hold. At T-minus 9 minutes in holding, this is Shuttle Launch Control.
Houston flight entity.
NTD Houston flight.
Step 1021, will we be needing to do any updates for the ascent data?
Let me check. NTD Houston flight, no further updates for the crew.
I copy, thank you.
NTD LPS.
To LPS.
We're going to be opening an in-house IPR on the C1 console 640. In the A1 position, the PSP has erroneous characters, and we're going to be changing it out after the launch. It's CR36660.
Okay, no issue and no constraint to launch, is that correct?
That's firm.
SPE entity.
SPE copies and concurs.
Okay, and LPS, does that mean they don't have certain displays, or what exactly does that mean for those folks?
They have extraneous characters in the one of their displays. The other displays are good.
Okay, and they're aware of that, I'm sure.
Yes, they are.
Okay. And PTC, you copy as well? And PTC copies and concurs.
This is Shuttle Launch Control at T-minus 9 minutes and holding with 18 minutes 20 seconds remaining in this built-in hold. Space Shuttle Atlantis, as we see it on the launch pad, weighs 4,520,042 pounds. The orbiter Atlantis at launch weighs 258,222 pounds, just 5.7% of the weight of the entire shuttle stack. The weight of the joint airlock on board and the associated tanks is 207,251 pounds. And after the liftoff occurs, the solid rocket boosters will separate 2 minutes into flight at an altitude of 30 miles and then will continue upward on their own for about another 70 seconds to about 42 miles before they begin their free fall back toward the Atlantic Ocean. At about 3 miles in altitude, a drogue chute will deploy to slow the fall to the water, and at about 1 mile above the water, the main chutes deploy that create the more gradual fall. The total descent after the boosters begin their fall takes about 7 minutes, and they will impact the water at a speed of about 60 miles an hour, usually about 7 miles apart. This is Shuttle Launch Control at T-minus 9 minutes and holding. Weather criteria continue to be observed go for the launch this morning. The weather aircraft has been watching an area of clouds off to the east and northeast, but they are only about 500 feet thick and do not seem to be a threat at this time. There's no moisture in them. So while they're watching for any change in that status of that area of clouds off to the east, it does not appear at the moment like that will impact our launch. So our weather conditions at the shuttle landing facility as well as for launch right now are both observed go and forecast go.
PLT OTC air to ground 1.
Go ahead, so PLT.
Yes, sir. Clear the hardware, caution warning memory, verify no unexpected errors.
Okay, that's in work. And OTC PLT caution warning is clear, no unexpected errors.
OTC copies. MS1 OTC air to ground 1.
Go ahead, MS1.
Yes, sir. Two things. Turn on the PDA and activate the V10 recorder.
Okay, we'll put that in work.
ISL, JRPS, and Houston Flight perform the L-15 recorder activation. ISL?
ISO copies.
JRPS? JRPS copy. Houston Flight.
Flight copies.
And PVD copy 1025.
PVD can give you 1023, 4, and 5, and not performed on 1022.
We copy. And attention all personnel, this is the NTD conducting the launch status check. Verify ready to resume count and go for launch. OTC? Orbiter is go. TBC? Tank and boosters go. TTC? TTC is go. LPS? LPS go. Houston Flight?
Houston Flight is go.
Mila? Mila is go. STM?
STM go.
Safety console?
Safety go.
SPE?
SP is currently go.
LRD? LRD NTD. Go ahead. Verify ready to resume count. Are you go for launch? We're working the contact at the moment. Copy. SRO?
SRO is go. You have range clear to launch.
And CDR?
And cruise go.
And NTD, this is HYD 212. Go ahead, HYD. Okay, just a heads up, we have a trend on our water spray boiler number 1 right now. It's decreasing about a degree every 15 minutes, and no hold required at this time, but if it goes below its value, the break our HY10, which the pilot would lose his APU talkback system 1, and we'd like to go ahead and let him know that we are tracking that. If it goes to barber pole on APU 1, to talk to him, let him go ahead and take that start. Okay, and
the PLT copies.
Okay, copy PLT and SPE NTD.
Go ahead, this is SPE.
Okay, you copy on water spray boiler number 1.
Yeah, I copied on number 1, and what we'll do is we'll invoke that pre-plan number 4, which we've already looked at and looks like we'll pass. And that is that we had the okay prior to ET loading, and that what we're trending here is the steam vent temperatures that they could drop below 133 based on thermal.
Okay, and are any actions required at this time?
No actions required.
Okay, we're just going to monitor at this point?
That's correct.
Okay, and HYD, you are go for launch?
HYD's go.
Okay, and SPE, you concur with that?
I concur with that.
Okay, and LRD NTD? LRD is go. The contacts will not be in the box at launch. Okay, I copy that. And launch director NTD?
Launch director.
With that, the launch team is ready to proceed at this time.
Okay, I copy. Chief Engineer, Launch Director, verify no constraints to launch.
Engineering team is go.
Okay, Charlie, thank you. KC Safety Mission Assurance.
Safety Mission Assurance is go, Mike.
Copy. International Space Station Launch Manager.
Mike, the NASA Boeing team is go for launch of the airlock and the mission that will complete phase 2 of the space station.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Range weather. Range weather launch director, 212.
Launch director, range weather, can you hear me now, over?
Yes, sir, I've got you.
That's on the wrong freak. We have no constraints to launch, over.
Okay, I copy that, thank you. And Ops Manager.
Launch Director, the mission management team is working. No issues. You go to resume count.
Okay, thank you very much. Atlantis Launch Director.
Go ahead.
Okay, Steve, looks like the vehicle and the weather has come together. So we wish you luck on the final assembly mission of Phase 2 of the International Space Station. Good luck and have a great flight.
Great, and we appreciate all the work the teams have put down here getting our vehicle ready for launch, and also appreciate all the work of the station and shuttle programs getting us ready to launch the airlock and put it on the space station.
Very good, thank you. And NTD Launch Director, with that, you're clear to proceed.
Okay, copy, thank you.
NTD ISO.
Go ISO.
I can give you 1031, altitude recorder activated.
Copy. Attention personnel, copy.
1 minute now from picking up the countdown at T-minus 9 minutes.
Countdown clock will resume on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark.
T-minus 9 minutes and counting.
GLS auto sequence has been initiated.
Ground launch sequencer now controlling the countdown for the last 9 minutes. Over 1,000 different parameters will be checked and verified. And if all of these parameters are go, then at T-minus 31 seconds, the ground launch sequencer will have a handshake with the onboard computer on Atlantis, and Atlantis will take over the final 31 seconds of the countdown. If anything is amiss, the handoff to the onboard computer will not occur. The ground launch sequencer will stop the countdown. So at T-minus 31, that's our final milestone to get through. That means we're on our way to a liftoff.
PLT OTC, connect essential buses to fuel cells for your checklist.
Hey, essential bus to fuel cells in work.
Standing by to retract the crew access arm.
PLT essential bus source to fuel cells complete.
OTC copy.
GLS is go for OAA retract.
The access arm can be moved back into position in front of the crew hatch in about 30 seconds should an emergency occur. Next event will be to start the auxiliary power unit chart recorders and then go through the auxiliary power unit pre-start procedure. That's coming up in the next half minute.
JRPS OTC, activate APU strip chart recorder.
JRPS copy.
And PLT OTC, perform APU pre-start.
APU pre-starts in work.
And then the auxiliary power units will be started at T-minus 5. Also at T-minus 5, the firing chain will be activated.
Pre-starts complete, 3 grade top mix.
OTC copy.
And also at T-minus 5, the range safety systems will be activated. T-minus 5 minutes and counting.
For orbiter APU start.
PLT OTC, perform APU start.
APU start is in work.
And CDR OTC, reconfigure heater.
Copy on board.
Terminating the liquid oxygen replenishment now.
OTC CDR here, reconfigure complete.
OTC copy.
And OTC PLT APU start is complete, 3 good APUs.
OTC copy.
Preparing now to start the main engine helium purge sequence, which prepares the engines for their start sequence. And now we'll have an aero surface profile test. Gimbaling the engines and flight controls. Pressurizing the liquid oxygen tank.
LO2 pressurization.
TLT OTC, clear caution warning memory, verify no unexpected errors.
Okay, caution warning is clear, no unexpected errors.
The gaseous oxygen fin hood is being retracted.
Gate 02 flow.
Copy and work. Go for ET LH2 pressurization. One minute, 30 seconds.
Minus 45 seconds. Preparing now for the ground launch sequencer to hand off to the onboard computers. And the handoff has occurred.
Auto sequence start. 25.
Sound suppression water system is now being activated. We're arming the firing chain. Safety inhibits are now removed. The launch ignition system is armed. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff of Space Shuttle Atlantis, launching a door to partnerships in space.
Houston now controlling the flight of Atlantis.
Control program.
Atlantis, Houston, roger, roll.
Atlantis into the roll, placing the shuttle in a heads-down, wings-level position for the 8.5-minute ride to orbit. Atlantis beginning its chase of the International Space Station, a 42-hour pursuit of the facility. Seconds into the flight, Atlantis' 3 liquid fuel main engines now throttling back in a 3-step fashion to 72% of rated performance, reducing the stress on the shuttle as it breaks through the sound barrier. One minute into the flight, Those main engines now beginning to rev up to full throttle, 104% of rated performance. Good engine performance, good fuel cells, good 3 hydraulic power units.
Go ahead, throttle up. Roger, go ahead, throttle up.
The throttle up call acknowledged by Capcom Gus Loria to Commander Steve Lindsay aboard Atlantis. Lindsay joined on the flight deck by pilot Charlie Hobaugh, flight engineer Janet Cavandi, and mission specialist Mike Gernhardt. Jim Riley seated alone down on the middeck. One minute, 36 seconds into the flight. Atlantis already 18 miles in altitude, 15 miles downrange from the Kennedy Space Center. All systems functioning perfectly at this moment. Atlantis traveling 2,900 miles per hour, now 27 miles downrange. And a good solid rocket booster separation. Guidance now converging aboard Atlantis. The onboard computers commanding the main engine nozzles to gently swivel, aiming the shuttle for a precise keyhole in space for main engine cutoff. 2 minutes, 25 seconds into the flight.
Atlantis, 2-engine TAL.
Copy, 2-engine TAL.
That call from Capcom Gus Loria indicating that if one main engine should fail, Atlantis could make a transoceanic abort to Zaragoza, Spain. However, all 3 main engines are performing flawlessly, a perfect start to the 10th assembly flight to the International Space Station. Atlantis flying on the singular power of its 3 liquid fuel main engines, those engines draining about a half a ton of fuel per second from the shuttle's large external fuel tank. 3 minutes, 4 seconds into the flight, Atlantis traveling 4,400 miles per hour, 84 miles downrange, 49 miles in altitude. Three minutes, 45 seconds into the flight, the flash evaporator system activated on board Atlantis to provide avionics cooling until the opening of the payload bay doors 1 hour and 25 minutes into the flight.
Atlantis, Houston, negative return.
Copy, we're negative return.
That call from Capcom Gus Loria indicating that at an altitude of 61 miles, with Atlantis 160 miles downrange from the Kennedy Space Center, the shuttle is too far downrange, too high in altitude to return to the launch site in the event of an engine failure. However, all 3 main engines tracking right down the pike as Atlantis heads for the International Space Station and a docking Friday night.
Atlantis, Houston, press to ATO.
Copy, press to ATO.
Atlantis now with enough velocity to make minimum orbital targets should that become necessary. However, all of Atlantis' systems continue to function perfectly, now 229 miles downrange, 66 miles in altitude, gaining speed as it heads for main engine cutoff about 8.5 minutes into the flight. About 30 seconds from now, Atlantis will be rolling to a heads-up position above its external fuel tank to improve communications with the tracking and data relay satellite system. All of Atlantis' systems in excellent shape, 289 miles downrange from the Kennedy Space Center, a gleaming star lighting up the pre-dawn skies at the Kennedy Space Center this morning.
Atlantis, Houston, single engine, Ops 3.
Copy, single engine, Ops 3.
Atlantis Houston, press to MECO.
Copy, press to MECO.
Single engine Zaragoza, 104.
Copy, single engine Zaragoza, 104.
Atlantis now flying on top of its external fuel tank, everything looking very good. No issues associated with this morning's ascent to begin the 4th shuttle flight of the year. Atlantis now can make normal main engine cutoff targets in the event of a main engine failure. However, all 3 main engines are functioning perfectly, as are the fuel cells and hydraulic power units. 6 minutes, 45 seconds into the flight, Atlantis 480 miles downrange, 66 miles in altitude, traveling more than 10,000 miles an hour.
Atlantis, single engine press, 104.
Copy, single engine press, 104.
Atlantis for Scorch, we're looking at a nominal shutdown plan.
Copy, nominal bingo.
Main engine cutoff forecast at the 8-minute 26-second mark into the flight, about 1 minute from now. Atlantis' main engines will soon be throttled down to limit the stress on the shuttle and its 5 astronauts to that of 3 times the effective gravity. Atlantis currently traveling at a speed of more than 4 miles per second. Coming up on the 8-minute mark into the flight, Atlantis more than 700 miles downrange, a flawless ascent to orbit, following an on-time liftoff from the Kennedy Space Center this morning. Standing by for main engine cutoff. Booster officer confirms a normal main engine cutoff. Standing by for external tank separation.
Atlantis Houston, nominal MECO, ohms 1 is not required.
Copy, and tank here.
And Atlantis' external tank has been jettisoned. So Atlantis now in its preliminary orbit. A perfect launch from the Kennedy Space Center, no issues whatsoever. A very quiet flight control room here in Houston as Atlantis begins its pursuit of the International Space Station and a link up with the Expedition 2 crew late Friday night. Here in the Space Shuttle Flight Control Room at the Johnson Space Center, Flight Director Wayne Hale having presided over an uneventful ascent to orbit for Atlantis this morning as the crew begins the procedures to shut down the hydraulic power units and to begin configuring on-orbit systems. We'll be switching soon back to the Kennedy Space Center for launch replays, but in essence, no issues being worked by the flight control team here in Houston. Down the hall in the International Space Station Flight Control Room, the space station crew has been informed of the launch of Atlantis, that they will soon have visitors about 42 hours from now as they prepare for the arrival of Atlantis and the joint airlock named Quest, which will provide a portal to space, a 2-chambered module that will enable spacewalks to be conducted from the International Space Station by future station crews without the presence of a shuttle required.
Atlantis Houston, we are ready for tail-only control now.
Copy, we'll put that on work.
At the time of launch by Atlantis, about 12 minutes ago, the International Space Station was traveling over the heart of the Indian Ocean, traveling southwest of Jakarta, Indonesia, and west-northwest of Perth, Australia. The International Space Station now sailing over the southern Indian Ocean, about to begin a swing across the Pacific, south of the continent of Australia. Again, a perfect ascent to orbit by Atlantis. Commander Steve Lindsay, pilot Charlie Hobaugh, and mission specialists Mike Gernhardt, Janet Kavandi, and Jim Riley now beginning the procedures to configure the orbiter for on-orbit operations.
You have a go for the ET photo maneuver. And for Scorch, we're going to stand by on APU hide shutdown while we wait for good cooling.
Okay, I copy, guys.
Scorch, the nickname for pilot Charlie Hobaugh, in space for the first time. For Steve Lindsay, his third flight into space, as it is for Janet Kavandi, his flight engineer and prime robot arm operator on this mission. Mike Gernhardt embarking on his fourth flight into space, and for Jim Riley, his second excursion away from the planet. On board the International Space Station, Expedition 2 Commander Yuri Usachov and flight engineers Jim Voss and Susan Helms in their 126th day in space as they gear up for the arrival of Atlantis and the installation of the joint airlock and 4 high-pressure gas tanks later this week.
Atlantis Houston, your nominal onboard OMS 2 targets are good. We're showing a TIG of 38:29, which should be very close to your onboard.
Oh, we copy that, TIG of 38:29.
Atlantis Houston for Scorch. Max reports good cooling on all 3 systems. You have a go for APU hide shutdown.
APU hide shutdown's in work.
Atlantis, we copy. Thank you.
And Houston, we're going over to Ops 105.
Atlantis, Houston, roger. Atlantis, Houston for Scorch. When you get to page 3-5, we have no deltas.
Okay, no deltas to 3-5, and I'll put that in work now.
Atlantis, Houston, we see your ohms 2 targets. You've got to go to load.
Copy and work.
This is Mission Control Houston. While these videotape replays of launch are being provided from the Kennedy Space Center, the International Space Station crew of Commander Yuri Usachov and flight engineers Jim Voss and Susan Helms are in fact watching this in an uplink from the International Space Station Flight Control Room to the station itself.
CT umbilical door closure is complete.
Atlantis, we copy. Atlantis, Houston, for the commander. When you have a chance, we are ready for a debris report, Steve.
Okay, copy that. And before we do that, do we have a go to maneuver?
Affirmative. You have a go to maneuver.
There in second stage when the SOPs came off. Other than that, everything looks good. A little bit of ice floating around, but other than that, it looks clean.
Atlantis, we copy. Looks good and looks clean. Thanks, Steve.
This is Mission Control Houston. While these launch replays are continuing from the Kennedy Space Center, the crew has reported on board Atlantis the closure of the external tank umbilical doors, everything continuing to go very smoothly as they prepare for the firing of the orbital maneuvering system engines a little less than 13 minutes from now to help refine Atlantis' orbit. It will still remain in a slightly elliptical orbit, but this burn will increase Atlantis' altitude, part of the ongoing pursuit of the International Space Station for a docking just before 10 p.m. Central Time tomorrow night.
Atlantis, Houston, we see you in a good attitude, and we have no deltas, and we're looking forward to a good OMS 2 burn.
Yeah, we copy that. And Houston Atlantis, just be advised we'll be powering down PLT2 MDU.
Atlantis, we copy. Atlantis, we're about a minute and a half from LOS. We expect about a short...
This is Mission Control Houston.
We'll pick you up on T2C.
Yeah, we copy that, Houston.
Here in the shuttle flight control room, Flight Director Wayne Hale in the middle of your picture, having presided over a flawless launch of Atlantis, beginning its pursuit of the International Space Station at this hour. The launch occurring on time at 4:04 a.m. Central Time, about 32 and a half minutes ago. Hale is joined on console by Capcom or spacecraft communicator Gus Loria. The Orbit 2 team of flight controllers will be entering the flight control room here in about an hour to begin its handover. After on-orbit operations are established, the payload bay doors to be opened soon, within the hour, and the crew will then be given a go for orbital operations and an opportunity to climb out of their launch and entry suits. Atlantis and its 5 astronauts, Commander Steve Lindsay, pilot Charlie Hobaugh, and mission specialists Mike Gernhardt, Janet Cavandi, and Jim Riley, now en route to the International Space Station, traveling over Saudi Arabia, moving in a northwest to southeasterly direction that will carry them across the Indian Ocean a short time from now. They're preparing about 5 minutes from now for the firing of their orbital maneuvering system engines. This will be the so-called OMS 2 burn that will refine Atlantis' orbit to raise the altitude as well as increase both the apogee and perigee of the orbit. Atlantis will remain in an elliptical orbit as it begins its chase of the International Space Station, a 42-hour orbital ballet that will culminate with a docking at around 9:50 p.m. Central Time on Friday night. Down the hall in the International Space Station flight control room, the team of flight controllers, which has also been on duty since late last night, led by Flight Director Annette Hasbrook. She has been presiding over all of the station systems. Now just seated in her chair to her right, spacecraft communicator Sandy Magnus, the astronaut who relayed to Commander Yuri Usachov and flight engineers Jim Voss and Susan Helms a short time ago the successful launch of Atlantis. They also were able to uplink the videotape replays of the launch that you just saw from the Kennedy Space Center. The crew acknowledging that they were delighted that Atlantis was on its way and headed for an arrival tomorrow night. The first visitors that they have had since April, when the STS-100 crew of Endeavour delivered the Canadarm2, the space station robotic arm, which will be used on Saturday night into early Sunday morning to unberth the joint airlock, which is named Quest, from the payload bay of Atlantis and install it on the starboard hatch of the Unity module, along with 4 subsequent operations to remove two oxygen tanks and 2 nitrogen tanks, high-pressure gas tanks that are housed also in Atlantis' cargo bay, and install those as well on the airlock itself. The first 2 spacewalks of this mission will be conducted from the shuttle airlock just behind the aft bulkhead of the crew cabin of Atlantis, the external airlock that is joined to the orbiter docking system in the forward portion of Atlantis' cargo bay. However, the 3rd spacewalk of this mission will be the first to be conducted out of that new airlock, the Quest as it is known. That EVA or spacewalk by Mike Earnhardt and Jim Riley will inaugurate a new era of spacewalking capability and extravehicular activity. The first spacewalk ever conducted by Americans was conducted on June 3rd, 1965 by Ed White, about a 20-minute excursion outside of the Gemini 4 spacecraft. Earnhardt and Riley will be making the first excursion outside of the Quest airlock on the 3rd spacewalk of this mission planned next week. We're less than 2.5 minutes away now from the firing of the orbital maneuvering system engines in the refinement of Atlantis' orbit following an on-time and successful launch and ascent from the Kennedy Space Center this morning, placing Atlantis on time and on course to arrive at the International Space Station late Friday night.
And Houston, Atlantis, we show ourselves in a good config for the burn.
Atlantis, we concur. Good config for the burn.
This is Mission Control Houston, standing by for the OMS 2 burn of the orbital maneuvering system engines, the firing of the big rockets on the back of Atlantis to refine Atlantis' orbit. Propulsion officer reports that the OMS 2 burn is in progress. Good control reported by the guidance, navigation, and control officer here in Mission Control.
Atlantis Houston, good burn. Trim is not required.
Copy, concur.
With the successful firing of the orbital maneuvering system engines, Atlantis now flying in an orbit of 146 by 98 statute miles above the Earth. All of its systems in excellent shape. The auxiliary power units have been shut down, and the crew now will begin to configure computers and unstow gear as they await the opening of the payload bay doors. That to come in about 45 minutes or so. That will mark the start of formal orbital operations. A go for orbital operations will be given by Ascent Flight Director Wayne Hale after he's had an opportunity to poll his flight controllers here in the shuttle flight control room. Once the go for orbital operations is given to the crew, they'll then climb out of their launch and entry suits and begin to set up shop on orbit. In what amounts to a very short work day, the crew will begin an 8-hour sleep period around 9 a.m. Central Time this morning. They'll be awakened at about 5 p.m. Central Time this afternoon to begin their first full day in orbit. Their work on Thursday night into Friday morning will consist of all of the preparatory work prior to the docking of Atlantis to the International Space Station late Friday night. That work to consist of the checkout of the 3 spacesuits that are on board, 2 of which will be used by spacewalkers Mike Gernhardt and Jim Riley during their 3 excursions outside of Atlantis around the International Space Station. The first 2 to emanate from the shuttle's airlock, and the third to be an historic spacewalk, the first out of the new joint airlock named Quest, after it is installed and activated on the Unity module of the International Space Station later this week. On Thursday night into Friday morning, the crew will also check out the shuttle's robot arm, the Canadian-built robot arm. Janet Cavandi, the flight engineer, is the prime robot arm operator on this flight.
Post-burn rate config is complete.
Atlantis, we concur, Scorch. Good config, thank you.
Janet Cavandi is the prime shuttle robot arm operator for this flight. She is backed up with robot arm operations on this mission by Commander Steve Lindsay.
Are you ready for the UPS LH2 vacuum and learning?
And Atlantis, we are ready for that, Scorch, and we have no deltas.
Okay, that's in work.
Cavandi will be using the robot arm to maneuver Gernhardt and Riley around the vicinity of the International Space Station during their spacewalking operations on the flight. Her work with the shuttle's robot arm will be conducted in concert with the use of the Canadian-built Canadarm2, the so-called big arm. That's the space station robotic arm, which was delivered to the International Space Station back in April by Endeavour's crew on the last assembly flight. That robot arm will be operated by Expedition 2 flight engineer Susan Helms to unberth and maneuver the huge joint airlock, this 15-foot-long airlock that weighs 6.5 tons. Helms will maneuver the airlock for its installation on the starboard berthing port of the Unity module of the International Space Station, along with 4 high-pressure gas tanks, 2 nitrogen tanks, and 2 oxygen tanks that are housed on a pallet in the payload bay of Atlantis. So essentially 5 robotic arm operations for the newly installed and activated Canadarm2, along with concurrent robot arm operations by Janet Cavandi aboard Atlantis as she maneuvers the spacewalkers around the vicinity of the International Space Station as they work in concert with Helms inside the Destiny Laboratory at a workstation to install the airlock and its gas tanks for activation. Coming up shortly, soon after the top of the hour, from the Kennedy Space Center, we'll be switching the NASA television satellite back there once again for this morning's post-launch news conference, as Launch Integration Manager Jim Halsell and Launch Director Mike Leinbach will be conducting that post-launch news conference. Again, that coming up shortly after the top of the hour, somewhere in the 4:10 or 5:10 to 5:15 a.m. neighborhood from the Kennedy Space Center. We'll keep you posted on the exact time. Again, the participants will be Jim Halsell, the astronaut who serves as the Launch Integration Manager for the shuttle program down at the Kennedy Space Center, and the launch director for this morning's successful liftoff of Atlantis, Mike Leinbach.
And Houston, we're going to Ops 106.
Atlantis, Houston, we copy. Atlantis, Houston, we're with you in the post-insertion checklist. I have 1 Delta for Block 1, Step 8.
Yeah, stand by 1, Houston.
Atlantis, Houston, in Step 8, prior to the GPC CRT SM GPC4 execute step, we'd like to have you give us a GPC CRT 04 execute.
Okay, we copy that, Gus, and it's okay, we'll just give you the GPC CRT 04 right now.
And Steve, we'd like you to hold on that in Step 8 as called out.
Okay, we will.
Atlantis, no need to reply. Inside of a minute, handing over to Tidris West.
We copy, and Block 11 is started and complete.
Copy Block 11.
This is Mission Control Houston aboard Atlantis, the crew led by Commander Steve Lindsay, continuing to configure onboard computers and other systems for on-orbit operations as they prepare for the opening of the payload bay doors about 35 minutes or so from now. Everything continuing to go very smoothly since liftoff 50 minutes ago from the Kennedy Space Center. This is Mission Control Houston. While Atlantis travels over the southern Indian Ocean to the southwest of the continent of Australia, the International Space Station just made a very visible pass directly over the Johnson Space Center in the Houston area, flying almost directly over the moon on a cloudless pre-dawn sky as Commander Yuri Usachov and flight engineers Jim Voss and Susan Helms prepare to begin an 8.5-hour sleep period. About 30 minutes from now, they'll be awakened about mid-afternoon as they continue to shift their sleep schedule to the right to match that of the Atlantis crew so that the two crews will have their sleep schedules meshed for on-orbit and joint operations starting late Friday night once Atlantis arrives at the International Complex.
And Houston, Atlantis, we're putting Block 1 in work.
Atlantis, Houston, roger.
This is Mission Control Houston, the Block 1 operation referred to by Commander Steve Lindsay in his discussion with Capcom Gus Loria refers to the configuration of the on-orbit load of software into the general purpose computers aboard Atlantis, the so-called OPS-2 load of software that will govern on-orbit operations for the orbiter and its 5 astronauts.
Copy.
To recap, with clouds cooperating and the weather having come into line down at the Kennedy Space Center, Atlantis rocketed into space 55 minutes ago at 4:04 a.m. Central Time, 5:04 Eastern Time, to begin its pursuit of the International Space Station, which at that time was traveling over the central Indian Ocean. 8.5 minutes later, Atlantis settled into orbit following an uneventful climb to orbit, including the first performance of the new Block 2 engine on the orbiter. Once in orbit, Atlantis' crew began the process of configuring on-orbit systems and also conducted the firing of the orbital maneuvering system engines to further refine Atlantis' path to the International Space Station and their own orbit. They're currently traveling in an orbit slightly elliptical of 146 by 96 statute miles. A series of rendezvous maneuvers will ensue over the next 42 hours to bring Atlantis to its link up to the International Space Station on Friday night at about 9:50 p.m. Central Time. We're probably about 25 to 30 minutes away from the opening of Atlantis' cargo bay doors. Ascent Flight Director Wayne Hale will get a go for payload bay door opening and then a subsequent go for the start of on-orbit operations that will enable the crew to climb out of its launch and entry suits and get comfortable for the final few hours of its workday. The crew actually was awakened late Wednesday afternoon down at the Cape to prepare for launch. They're scheduled to begin their 8-hour sleep period at about 9 Central Time this morning. We also will be switching down to the Kennedy Space Center a short time from now for the post-launch news conference as Shuttle Launch Integration Manager Jim Halsell and Launch Director Mike Leinbach will field questions about this morning's flawless countdown and Atlantis' launch ascent to orbit to begin this 10th assembly flight to the International Space Station. Again, Launch Integration Manager Jim Halsell and Launch Director Mike Leinbach will be standing by a short time from now for the start of the post-launch news conference at the Kennedy Space Center. We'll be switching down there for that.
And Houston, Atlantis, just want to confirm for step forward, dual G2.
Atlantis, affirmative.
Copy that. If you like our end-bit, we're ready to do the transition.
Atlantis, we're ready.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our post-launch news conference for STS104. And here to discuss how the countdown went this morning is Jim Halsell, the Space Shuttle Program Launch Integration Manager, and Mike Leinbach, the Space Shuttle Launch Director at Kennedy Space Center. And we'll begin first with Jim.
Thank you very much, George. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It was a beautiful morning launch. From the program perspective, I'd like to say thanks to the people here at KSC and thanks to the launch control team led by Mike Leinbach. The vehicle was essentially perfect. The weather offered the only challenges that I became aware of, and those were worked also, and we got off on time. STS-104 is now in orbit and beginning the process of the rendezvous to be followed by the docking and the installation of the airlock on board the International Space Station. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Mike?
Well, thanks. It was a very beautiful launch, and as you all know, we had 2 vehicles on the launch pads up until about an hour and a half or so ago, and now we only have 1, and that's the way we like it. We like to have 1 on orbit, like to have 1 on the pad, getting ready to launch early next month. The countdown was really very smooth. We worked a couple little technical issues, no problems to the count itself. The weather was the one issue that we were struggling with throughout the whole countdown, as you're well aware. But it doesn't hurt to have a little good luck at the end, and that's what we got. The clouds were very thin, well within our criteria for launch, and it was a very, very successful and beautiful launch, and we have the airlock on orbit now.
Right, thank you, Mike. Ready now to take questions. Please give your name and affiliation when the microphone comes to you. We'll start in the front here. Peter?
Good morning, Peter King, CBS News Radio, and congratulations for getting this off on time. I'm just wondering if either of you are superstitious and glad that you didn't have to launch on a Friday the 13th.
I know I didn't even realize what day that this special day was coming up until somebody mentioned it earlier today. From the program perspective, we feel like we had good rationale to go fly on any given day of the month or of the week, so we would have pressed straight ahead.
Now, the only thing I would add is that if we were going to launch tomorrow, I'd like to launch at 13 minutes after the 13th hour to prove I'm not superstitious. No, it would have been fine tomorrow.
All right, additional questions? Phil?
Phil Chenarth is a guest for Jim. Now that we got half of the what-if scenarios taken care of, and we know 7A is going to go before 7A.1, assuming nominal mission and assuming that the Expedition 2 crew goes on their nominal schedule, what date are you thinking about for STS-105?
We're thinking about August 9th, and of course you posed a lot of assumptions that date hinges on, but right now we're no earlier than August 9th, and that's the date that we'll make preliminary plans toward launching STS-105.
And Mike, from your point of view, any constraints on the vehicle or anything like that you're following, or is it pretty clean?
No, now that we only have 1 to process in the vertical, it's a very, very standard pad flow. We have all weekends off leading up to the 9th, so no, we feel fine about the vehicle right now. We've done the launch pad validation on that vehicle, and we're just pressing on now.
Stefano?
Stefano Cordan, UPI and Popular Mechanics. With my binoculars and also on TV, I've seen sort of like a stream of shock waves at the moment the shuttle lifts it off. Was there anything that could have made those more visible than usual? I'm talking about maybe humidity in the air or something else.
On the TV replays, what I saw during ascent at a time that I associated with the transonic period of flight, sometime after 30 seconds, but before about a minute, I thought I saw some shock waves traveling along the body of the vehicle, which I've seen in the past, and which I think would be the transition from subsonic to supersonic flight.
At liftoff, at the moment the shuttle lifts it off, I saw this with my binoculars. I saw this huge shock wave, and then on TV you could see actually like a sequence of shock waves from underneath the flame trench coming up, and there must have been at least 10 or 15 counted on a slow motion.
This is something I haven't seen, but you've whetted my interest, and I'll go back and look at the replays to see if we see something associated with the SRB ignition would be my guess, but we'll have to go back and look at it.
Stephen?
Mike or Jim, I realize it's real early yet, but did you have any anomalies with the new engine and the new turbo pump?
We did a real quick look after we reached orbit. Of course, the engine is where it belongs right now, and everything looked good from the quick look data that I received from the Marshall Space Flight Center. So, you know, pending obviously a good thorough review of the data, we'll have to reserve judgment, but it sure looked good to me.
Jim? Oh. All right. All right. Any further questions then? That will conclude the briefing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Atlantis Houston for the flight deck. I've got a Delta for page 1-5, a post insertion.
And we're ready to copy on 1-5.
And Steve, on 1-5, under maneuver to payload bay door opening attitude, change Omicron to plus 100.
Copy, we'll change Omicron to plus 100.
Atlantis, thanks. Good read back.
And Houston, I assume you want that maneuver on time at 112.
And Atlantis, Steve, affirmative, on time, sir.
Okay.
This is Mission Control Houston, back here in the Space Shuttle Flight Control Room. The ASCEND team of flight controllers remains on duty at this hour, led by Flight Director Wayne Hale, along with spacecraft communicator Gus Loria. 1 hour and 8 minutes after the successful launch of Atlantis from the Kennedy Space Center, the crew on board, led by Commander Steve Lindsay, joined by pilot Charlie Hobaugh, flight engineer Janet Cavandi, and mission specialists Mike Gernhardt and Jim Riley, the two spacewalkers for this flight, continue to configure computers and on-orbit systems, unstowing gear as well, as they prepare to maneuver Atlantis into the proper orientation for the opening of the cargo bay doors about 20 minutes from now. Housed inside Atlantis' payload bay is the 6.5-ton joint airlock named Quest, the main payload for this 10th assembly flight to the International Space Station. Quest to be installed on the starboard docking port of the Unity module of the International Space Station by station robot arm operator Susan Helms, who will be using the Canadarm2, the Canadian-built station robotic arm. She will lift the Quest out of the payload bay of Atlantis. You see it during pre-launch processing in this image on NASA television. Quest to be grappled by the station robot arm, the Canadarm2, to be lifted out of Atlantis' cargo bay by Helms and maneuvered for a berthing on the starboard berthing port of the Unity module. That operation to take place late Saturday night into early Sunday morning, associated with the first of 3 spacewalks to be conducted by Mike Gernhardt and Jim Riley, who will be assisting Helms in the installation of the airlock onto Unity and the subsequent installation of 4 high-pressure gas tanks, 2 oxygen tanks, and 2 nitrogen tanks that are housed in a pallet in front of the airlock in the cargo bay of Atlantis.
Atlantis Houston, we see the maneuver future loaded. We'd like you to ensure that DAP A6 has been loaded prior to kicking that off.
Copy that.
This is Mission Control Houston. Ascent Flight Director Wayne Hale is now polling his flight controllers here in the shuttle flight control room to get a go for payload bay door opening. The Guidance, Navigation, and Control Officer here in Mission Control reports that Atlantis is now being maneuvered into the correct orientation for payload bay door opening. All of Atlantis' systems are functioning in perfect fashion following its liftoff from the Kennedy Space Center to begin its 24th flight in the 105th mission in shuttle program history.
And Houston, ready for the airlock resets.
Atlantis, Steve, we are ready for those.
Copy. And Houston, we show block 1 complete.
Atlantis Houston, Steve, we copy and concur. Atlantis Houston, we'd like to confirm that someone has Block 4 in work.
In Houston, we're going to put Block 4 in work this time.
Atlantis, we copy. Thank you.
In Houston, Atlantis, we're putting Block 4 and 5 in work.
Atlantis, we are ready.
Houston, Atlantis for Block 4.
Atlantis, go ahead for Block 4.
Yeah, we just want to confirm which floods we can turn on and which floods we can't, based on our payloads.
Atlantis, Houston, we've confirmed that you can go ahead and work the A7 upper steps as written.
Okay, copy. We'll work them as written. Houston, Atlantis, Block 12 is complete.
Copy, Block 12 complete, thanks.
This is Mission Control Houston. The crew aboard Atlantis completing preparations for the opening of the payload bay doors a few minutes from now. That will expose to the vacuum of space for the first time the joint airlock named Quest and the 4 high-pressure gas tanks that will be affixed to Quest during space station robotic arm operations throughout the course of the docked mission between Atlantis and the International Space Station. The docking to occur late tomorrow night at about 9:50 p.m. Central Time.
And Houston, Block 5 is complete.
Atlantis, we copy and concur. Block 5 complete. Thank you. Atlantis, Houston, we are go for payload bay door opening.
Fully copy.
So the final go has been given for the opening of Atlantis' cargo bay doors. This all taking place as Atlantis crosses the equator to begin the second orbit of this mission following its launch from the Kennedy Space Center about an hour and a half ago. About 9 minutes from now, Atlantis will be passing directly over Houston. About a 1-minute pass with a maximum elevation of about 16 degrees, approaching from 17 degrees above the horizon, west-northwest, moving to 16 degrees above the horizon, north-northwest. Again, sighting opportunity for Houstonians of Atlantis about 9 minutes from now. Aboard the International Space Station, the Expedition 2 crew, Commander Yuri Usachov and flight engineers Jim Voss and Susan Helms are just about to begin an 8.5-hour sleep period. They'll be awakened at mid-afternoon this afternoon, some 3 hours before the Atlantis crew is awakened, and that will be the next to last sleep shifting opportunity for the station crew. They'll shift one more time on Thursday evening into Friday morning. That will enable them to sync up in terms of their sleep shift with Atlantis for the joint mission that will begin with the docking of Atlantis to the space station on Friday night.
Atlantis Houston for the flight deck with an action on L1.
Hey, go ahead for L1.
And Steve, on L1, we need you to cycle a FES Pry B. Looks like it's shut down, so we'd like you to take FES Pry B to off and then back to on.
Okay, copy. I'll take FES Pry B to off and then back to on.
Roger, thanks.
And that's complete, Houston.
Roger.
And Houston, Atlantis Block 2 is complete.
Copy Block 2.
Houston, Atlantis, comm check on a handheld.
Atlantis, we have you loud and clear on the handheld.
We have you loud and clear also. And we call block 3 now complete.
Roger, block 3 complete, thanks.
This is Mission Control Houston. The Mechanical Systems Officer here in Mission Control reports that the process of opening the payload bay doors has begun aboard Atlantis. The clamshell-like doors will swing open, exposing the joint airlock Quest and its 4 high-pressure gas tanks to the vacuum of space for the first time. The 4 gas tanks are mounted on a pallet that is located basically in the center of the payload bay behind the orbiter docking system and the external shuttle airlock. The new station airlock, the Quest, is located at the rear of Atlantis' payload bay.